I am on a mission to stop buying craft supplies that I don't need. Do you want to come with me? Let's go. How many times are we lured into going to the Dollar Tree or the 99-cent store or Hobby Lobby and buying supplies because we've seen a craft and we think, oh, I have to have that so I can duplicate it. And we bring it home and life gets in the way. We set it aside. Sometimes we don't even have time to bring it out of the bag, so it gets set aside for later. Later. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm still waiting for later to show up on my calendar. So I end up having all of these amazing supplies that I have the best intentions of using, but I just don't get around to them. It's money spent, but the bigger problem is now I have to find a place to store it. And I know if you're like me, sometimes those piles start to get a little bit bigger than we're ready to handle. So I wanted to share some tips and tricks that you can use to stop buying the supplies in your craft room that you don't need. My first tip is figure out why you're buying in the first place. The first step to buying less craft supplies is really identifying why. And I know this doesn't sound like fun to do the soul searching, but if you're buying things because you know you're going to be doing a crafter sale later, or you're trying to get ready for an online inventory, whatever the reason, if you're buying because you need these supplies for something in the future, by all means, create that storage space and stockpile. Keep the likes with the likes so that you can find them. But sometimes there's a darker reason. We don't always want to be honest about that. Are you buying because you're bored? Are you trying to pass the time by finding a distraction with these craft supplies? Or is it just something that you like having because you see something, but you don't necessarily use it, so you end up buying it and storing it? These are tough things to ask yourself, but if you can identify the why, and it's not truly because you need it for XYZ, taking a step back and using some of these other tips I'm going to share with you will help you to not buy these supplies. One of the best tips is challenge yourself to use up the supplies that you have on hand. I really got to use this very well during COVID when we were at home. I started pulling out things that I hadn't used in a long time, and it actually was a lot of fun to come up with different ways to use these supplies other than what I initially bought it for. But I still have a long ways to go. I went through, you probably saw the video where I dated the supplies, and if I hadn't used it by then, I was going to get rid of it. And I did get rid of most of those, but I'm human too, and I kept a lot of them because that crafter side of me is just so eager to create with these items. So challenge yourself to look at your inventory, and before you buy anything else, pick up some of those items and use them. Really get creative with how many of the things that you have can you use in future crafts to give as a gift, to sell, or to use in your home as decor. Oftentimes, by just crafting the item and then giving it away, you've satisfied that creative need inside of you, but realize that the end result wasn't something you need to hold on to. That serves a dual purpose to get the things out of your home, but you got that wonderful therapeutic time of crafting. Now, since we talked about inventory, one thing that's super important is know what you have. I know I have been in the same boat, and many of my clients have, where they buy the same thing over and over because when they need it, they can't find it. Or they see it on sale and they buy it, they bring it home and realize they already had a few. So if there is any way to get your extra supplies organized by likes with likes, you'll know the next time you're ready to do a project if you need more yarn, or if you need more glue, or if you need more whatever the item is. Have your supplies that are extra in one designated place so that you can always shop there first, or just take a picture of it so the next time you're at the craft store, you can look at that image of your craft inventory and know if the item that you are just about to spend money on is necessary. And it also helps because if you do have space for it and it's a phenomenal deal, you'll know immediately that you've got the space to put it away when you get home. Decluttering what you don't need. I wouldn't be the crafty organizer if I didn't always mention decluttering. Again, now that you've gone through that inventory, you've got the glues together, you've got the soft items together, you've got patterns put together, you have future odds and ends that you want to create something with. Once it's all organized in one space and you know where it is for future reference, that's the best time to start looking at the items that you don't intend on using anymore and letting them go. I just went through my space pretty recently and got rid of jewelry making that I have not touched for years. I also got rid of some wooden blocks that I used to love working on, but I simply haven't used. So letting those supplies go will free up the space for those projects that you really are looking forward to doing. And it also allows someone else who may not have the access or the budget to get those supplies to now have these supplies to craft with. There are a ton of amazing resources where you can donate these. I have mentioned the Disabled Artists Foundation several times, but there's also local youth centers, homeless shelters, there's senior centers. Any one of these agencies will be thrilled to get these supplies, and they will absolutely get them to the people who will use them and love them the most. And won't that be just a wonderful motivation for decluttering? Now, this is one I had forgotten about because I did it myself so long ago, but cut the source off from where the temptation is coming from. Unsubscribe to all of the places who are sending you those amazing sale newsletters, whether it's email, your texts, or actual mail coming in. Unsubscribe. Throw them away. You don't need to see that because that temptation is just making it all the more easy to just go online and order and take advantage of that great sale. Shop what you have first and cut off that temptation at its source. Now this one is one I'm going to have to work on myself. This is more of a do as I say, not as I do yet, but I promise I'm going to work on it. And that's find something else when you're just looking to pass time. I love looking at Pinterest. I love looking at those Dollar Tree DIY crafting posts with the unlimited sources of ideas and creativity. And I'll see an item and go, oh, I want to make that. And I'll save it to my pin board and I'll save it to my pin board. And before I know it, I have this lovely collection. And then I go into the Dollar Tree to see what's new. And then guess what happens? I see the items that I saw in those videos and I think, oh my gosh, they actually have it. They're so hard to find. I better buy these. Do you see this cycle? So try and find something else to do with your time. I don't go to the Dollar Tree because I need something. I'm curious to see if they have the items that I've been seeing in the videos or in Pinterest. That's something I need to work on. There are so many other things I could do with my time instead of finding these amazing crafts and then buying the items only to stash it away. So please let me know in the comments, am I alone on this? I will spend hours in the rabbit hole of Pinterest just collecting ideas. Please tell me I'm not alone. Now, if you do find yourself out and you see an item that you think, I have to have this, this is an amazing item, I want to craft with this, it's a tool I've never seen, it will make my life easier, right before you buy it, take a picture of it, go home and think about it. Unless it is 90% off, you don't need to buy it right at that moment. Chances are the coupon, if you have one, will be good for the next day, or the item is easy to get. But go home, really think about it. Make sure you don't already have something that is so similar to it. Make sure you have room for it. Make sure that you're not buying something that's going to go on a shelf that is similar to the other items that you already have, taking up that precious space in your craft room. So give yourself that holding period. And if the next day you're like, nope, I really want this, I've been thinking about it all day, order that item, go back and pick it up and enjoy it. But you may surprise yourself that the next day you realize you really didn't need it and you've saved yourself the time and space in your room. Now, I just touched on this one by going to the Dollar Tree just to see what's new. By staying out of the stores altogether, it's so much easier not to get caught up in the new seasonal items. I used to walk around Hobby Lobby at least once a month just to see what was new. I love checking the clearance section. I love seeing the new items come out, and most of the time I walk out empty-handed. But that does not happen when I go to the Dollar Tree. That does not happen when I go to the 99-cent store. It definitely doesn't happen when I go to Michael's and they have their 40% off coupons. So by taking myself out of the stores unless I specifically need something, I am saving myself a ton of money and not overwhelming my space. I think that is one of the best parts about ordering supplies online. Because you go online to find that very specific item, you can still find a coupon. There are so many apps out there that will allow you to get additional discounts off, and I'm getting only that item without being distracted. So again, it's the same as the subscriptions that you have for sales and coupons. Unsubscribing from them, taking myself out of the store to begin with, is another way just to make it easier to not overwhelm your space with supplies. This one is my favorite tip because you can use it in other areas besides your craft room, but trade with other people. I'm sure you have other friends, family members who are also crafters. Before you go out and buy those supplies that you may only need the tiniest amount of, see if a friend or neighbor or loved one has the item that you could borrow. Chances are you both have supplies that neither of you are really utilizing, and by combining those resources, you will find that you have a much larger selection, but you're not spending the money, nor are you taking up the space to store all those things. So check your resources for friends, neighbors, and loved ones first, and then if you still don't have any options, go ahead and you won't feel so bad about buying that item. Now, eventually we're all going to end up roaming through the store and just grabbing some of those things because they appeal to us. It seems like fun. We're worried they won't have it later. You're human. Enjoy that process. But if you apply these tips most of the time, it's going to help you in the long run. The other thing I want to suggest, and I've done this before in past videos, is write a date on it as soon as you bring it home. Whether it's a small corner where you use a Sharpie, or put a piece of tape on it, or a Post-it note, put the date on it. And this way in the future, when you're reevaluating your inventory or you're going through and decluttering, you'll know how long you've had that item, and you'll be able to see if you've been using it or not. If it's still in the overflow and it's been a year or more, it was an item that you didn't necessarily need, and it's probably easier to declutter. If it's something that you're using frequently, go ahead and pull it into your area where you're using things more often, or keep writing the date on it. It's a wonderful way to look back and see, I bought this 3 years ago and I've used it 4 times. Do I still need this, or can I let it go? But writing the date on it is just another wonderful way to keep track of how often you're using something, how long you've had it, and it will help you be more mindful of those future purchases. Was I able to share a tip that you loved, or do you have some of your own? Please share them down below. I love learning the things that you do that help you balance that incoming versus outgoing of supplies, but your fellow viewers do as well. And if you share a tip that's amazing, I will repost it with your permission, and I will send you one of these zipper crafty organizer bags as a thank you. So make sure you're posting your suggestions and ideas, and you may find yourself featured in a future video. Thank you so much to my patrons. Their support allows me to make these videos, and you do as well by liking, watching, commenting, subscribing, and coming back to see me each and every time. So thank you, and I will see you guys in just a few days. Bye.